Got a question for you. Should Christians shut up? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I could mean what the so-called new atheists were suggesting 10 or 15 years ago, that the only real reality is science, or if you're really cool, it's the science. And Christians, by definition, they see things that can't be measured, so therefore they're crazy. They're like people who see the face of Elvis in a plate of scrambled eggs, so we don't want to listen to them. And people got worked up about the new atheism for a while, but it didn't go anywhere. It's really run out of gas. Richard Dawkins, not long ago, gave an interview where he said, well, of course, he's not a Christian himself, would never dream of being one, but he likes the idea of living in a Christian culture run by Christians on Christian principles. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They're like saying, I really like apple pie, I just can't bring myself to believe in orchards. So we're going to put that aside for a moment. I want to talk about whether or not Christians should shut up in another way. And it's this. When Christians find themselves saying stupid things, don't even know that they're being stupid, that's when I think someone should tell them to shut up. I think back many years ago, a professor I greatly admired, an extraordinary world-class scholar, was asked to take on a very senior administrative post. And he accepted. And I asked a colleague, how do you think he'll do there? And he says, well, this just proves he has no friends, because a friend would tell him, don't do that. This is a mistake. There are very prominent Catholics, in particular, I have in mind today, who are very vocal in very foolish ways. And someone, I think, needs to tell them to shut up. That's what I want to talk about today. That's the topic I'm offering to you. Let's take a closer look. Hi, I'm Jesuit Father Robert McTeigue. I'm host every day at the Catholic Current, the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. And from time to time, usually on Mondays and Wednesdays, we're going to have a brief podcast, and that'll be available on all our usual podcast platforms, and it's going to be available at YouTube as well. We're glad that you're here. Here's the thing that concerns me. Readers of my books will be familiar with McTeige's axiom, which states, most institutions would rather die than admit that anyone ever made a mistake. And that is true among church leadership, members of what I call the people who should really know better club. Many religious institutions are dying. You've got religious communities that are collapsing, especially older women's communities. 15, 20 years ago, these communities who weren't getting vocations for decades were talking about the grace of diminishment. And now that there's 3 or 4 of them sitting in a room wondering who's going to die next, who's going to die last, they talk about the grace of completion, followed presumably, as one witty friend said, the grace of oblivion. Likewise, we've got parishes closing. We've got archdioceses undergoing very major downsizing. And not long ago, 2 archdioceses had some rather dramatic statements about the fact that their structures are collapsing at such a scale that it can't be denied anymore. And they've got this great plan that's going to fix everything. And the one archdiocese said, well, sure, we're closing parishes, and sure, there are fewer priests, and they're all getting older, and sure, they all have to be pastors of multiple parishes, but that's not a problem, see, because we've got this great idea. We're going to have missionary hubs, and oh my goodness, at these missionary hubs are going to be missionary disciples, however they are defined, and there's going to be exciting things happening there, things so exciting. We're going to have event planners there. Oh my goodness, yes. And very often, women are going to be in charge. Isn't that amazing? And oh my goodness, there's going to be listening. Oh boy, you haven't seen listening like the listening that we're going to do, these missionary hubs, and it's going to be great. Another archdiocese, apparently their plan is just to say the word synodal a lot. And apparently that involves getting pretty much everybody who's ever had an opinion, anyone who's ever been angry with the church, anyone who's been disaffected by the church, anyone who's made public stances against what the church has taught in terms of faith and moral, we're going to get everybody together. Now, the people want to pray in Latin, of course. Can't have that. And it's todos, 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 everyone, 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 except people who want to pray in Latin. And of course, it goes without saying, people who want to kneel for Holy Communion. Those people are out. But we're going to have listening, and we're going to call it synodal, and we're going to gather in a great big pile every opinion that everyone has ever had. And then from that is going to emerge the Spirit. And we're all going to live happily ever after. And I think these people need to shut up. Because what they're recommending is very great change, very great improvement without repentance, without any acknowledgement of how bad things are, and certainly no discussion of how we got here. Another prominent archdiocese a year or so ago, they have this program called Unleash the Gospel. Well, that's exciting, but no one's asking, hey, who put the leash on the gospel? I want to talk to that guy and say, what were you thinking? I also want a discussion of what bad things happened when the gospel was put on a leash. Who first noticed? Oh my gosh, there's a leash on the gospel. Who did that? How long did it take for him to tell anybody? And once people knew, how long did it take to do something other than say, you know what we got to do? We got to take the leash off that gospel. It's nonsense. It's theater. What we have to do is admit that we are sinners and that we failed. Like the prodigal son, we've squandered our inheritance. We let even baptized people believe that what we do as Catholics is not important, not indispensable, and not well defined. And now that people have noticed our failure, noticed our inadequacies, noticed our insincerity, and have acted accordingly, gosh, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to keep the lights on? Those bureaucrats, they're not going to feed themselves. So we have all these programs to do all these very exciting things, but with no recognition of how we got there, who's responsible, what role that you and I played. Make no mistake, I am a sinner. I'm aware of that. No serious reckoning. So I would say unless and until we fall to our knees, examine our conscience, go to confession, and make a list of what was broken and what we have in mind to make sure that it's fixed and it doesn't get broken in the same way again, then I think we need to shut up. Because what we're saying is not going to help anyone. Friends, I'm Jesuit Father Robert McTeigue. I'm host here every day at the Catholic Current and the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. You can listen to us every day of the week. And from time to time, we're going to have very brief podcasts. You can find all of our audio on every podcast platform. And on Mondays and Wednesdays, we'll have videos like this where we take a closer look. I hope to see you there. Go in peace, and please do pray for me, for I am a sinner.